As a developer, it's always beneficial to inform your end user of the current working state of your application. While this is important for all application platforms, it's crucial for ASP.NET applications performing callbacks to process data on the server. There are many ways to alert the user that the application is processing something server-side and that the wait is normal. However, the most popular method is to display a loading plan on the page. The ASPxLoadingPanel component from DevExpress lets you easily customize, display, and hide alerts that inform the user of the current status of the application. In this video, you'll learn how to implement a simple loading panel on a web application. So let's get started. I'll start with a new ASP.NET application. I'll paste the following code. You can see that this code is made up of two JavaScript methods and an HTML span element. The span element has its ID attribute set to mySpan. The onClick event is handled through the onSpanClick function. This function is found within the JavaScript code block. When it's raised, showAlert is called after 2 seconds have passed. In the next function, a JavaScript alert is created to display the current date and time. Let's run the application to see this in action. Here you can see the text that is contained within the span tags. I click on it, and following 2 seconds, a message box is displayed with today's date and time. I close the web browser and return to Visual Studio. You may have noticed that after clicking the text, it wasn't clear if anything was going to happen. So to be more user-friendly, we're going to display a loading panel until the alert window is created. From the toolbox, I drag and drop a new ASPxLoadingPanel component onto the form. I'll need to set its client instance name property so that it can be invoked from JavaScript code at runtime. I'll also specify mySpan as the container element ID so that the loading panel is associated with and displayed on top of the span element. Finally, I'll change the text property to show waiting instead of the default loading. Next, the loading panel needs to be somehow invoked at runtime. To do this, I switch to Source View. Inside the onSpanClick function, I'll click the client-side show method of the loading panel. This will display the loading panel immediately after the timer has started. In the next function, I call the controls hide method so that it's no longer displayed once the alert window pops up with the date and time information. I run the application again to see the changes. I click on the text, and you can now see the loading panel appear over it. The user is instructed to wait until 2 seconds pass and the message box is displayed. However, if you've seen most web applications on the market today, you'll notice that this is not how loading panels are displayed and positioned. Let's go back to Visual Studio and further customize the control. I clear out the container element ID property field. This means that by default, the web page is the container element for the control, so the loading panel will be positioned in the center of the page. Next, I want the loading panel to be displayed in modal mode so that no other controls or links can be clicked on the page while the application is completing other tasks. This is good, but at this point, the end user is not aware that the loading panel is modal, and the inability to click on anything else within the browser might lead to the user thinking the application or the web browser has frozen and is unable to complete the task. We can very easily give it a visual cue that the controls are meant to be inaccessible while the loading panel is present. To do this, I expand the loading div style node and set its back color property to a shade of gray. I will also set the opacity of the loading div to 70 so that the controls underneath it are still visible. And I'm done. I run the application one last time to see the final result. I click on the text, and you can see the gray-colored transparent overlay on top of the entire page while the loading panel is displayed in the center instructing us to wait. After our specified 2 seconds, the overlay div and the loading panel is hidden and the message box is displayed. Thanks for watching, and of course, thank you for choosing DevExpress.